Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to Kognito Key. I am absolutely thrilled to have you with us today. In this explainer, we are going to unlock the microscopic world of our cells. You know, every single second, millions of molecules are just bustling in and out of your cells, and that's literally what's keeping you alive and energized right now. But how exactly do they get past the cell membrane? Well, today, we are exploring the ultimate cellular gatekeepers, passive versus active transport. So let's dive right in.
Here is our quick roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with the downhill path, then look at the uphill climb, break down the step-by-step processes, and finish up with the ultimate face-off.
All right, Part 1, the downhill path, also known as passive transport.
To understand this, I want you to imagine you're standing at the top of a really steep hill, and you just let a heavy boulder roll all the way to the bottom. Gravity does all the work, right? Well, this is exactly what passive transport is like. It's molecules naturally moving from an area of high concentration straight down to an area of low concentration. And because they're just naturally moving down that gradient, the cell expends absolutely zero ATP. No cellular energy is wasted whatsoever.
Now, this downhill roll kind of happens in three main ways. First, we have osmosis, which is strictly the movement of water molecules just trying to seek balance. Then there's simple diffusion. This allows small molecules, like oxygen and carbon dioxide, to just slip effortlessly right through the membrane. And finally, facilitated diffusion. This one uses pump or carrier proteins to help out the larger molecules, like certain sugars, so they can slide down that exact same gradient.
Moving right along to Part 2, the uphill climb, or active transport.
Okay, so let's flip that earlier analogy. Now picture yourself at the bottom of the hill, and you have to physically push that heavy boulder all the way to the very top. It's exhausting. Active transport stubbornly moves molecules from a low concentration into a high concentration. Because it's fighting against the natural gradient, it absolutely demands energy. It uses ATP and specialized carrier proteins to literally force molecules across that semi-permeable membrane.
Active transport actually takes a few different forms. Primary active transport directly spends ATP to pump molecules, kind of like a uniport system moving amino acids. Secondary active transport is pretty clever. It basically hitchhikes. It uses the energy stored in a gradient from a previous ATP breakdown, and it does this through antiport or symport systems. And then we have cotransport, which is an obligatory system that moves two different solutes at the exact same time.
So if we put them side by side, the core difference really boils down to effort. Downhill transport flows from high to low with zero ATP. Uphill transport fights from low to high, and it demands energy. Honestly, if you keep this simple uphill versus downhill dynamic in your head, it unlocks the whole entire topic.
Let's look at Part 3, the step-by-step processes. How do these molecules actually make it across the barrier?
First up, the passive steps. And honestly, it is beautifully simple. Step 1, the solute approaches the membrane just because there's a concentration difference. Step 2, an inward flow naturally begins. And Step 3, it just flows until perfect equilibrium is reached inside and outside the cell. Once it's balanced, the gradient diminishes and the movement peacefully comes to a stop.
Contrast that with active transport, which is a bit more demanding. Step 1, the solute binds to a specific carrier protein receptor. Step 2, they form a solute carrier complex. Step 3, translocation across the membrane begins, and then Step 4, this is the crucial part, ATP triggers a physical change in the protein shape, forcing it to release the solute inside the cell against the gradient. Pretty fascinating, isn't it?
And that brings us to Part 4, the ultimate face-off. Let's compare those key differences.
Looking at this breakdown, active transport is actually highly selective compared to passive transport, and it absolutely must use carrier proteins to work. But the most critical difference? It lies in balance. Passive transport seeks and maintains equilibrium. Active transport, on the other hand, intentionally disrupts it so it can build up those vital concentrations of nutrients and ions that your cells desperately need. And here is a really interesting environmental factor. Passive transport is just natural physics, so it's largely unaffected by external temperature drops or metabolic inhibitors. Active transport, however, relies heavily on delicate enzymes and continuous ATP production. So, a sudden drop in oxygen or the presence of metabolic inhibitors can easily reduce its efficiency or halt the entire process completely.
So, what does this all mean for us? Why does it matter? Well, because without this microscopic, never-ending battle of gradients, this constant uphill and downhill flow, life simply wouldn't exist. These exact pathways are what keep every single cell in your body alive, perfectly balanced, and highly energized every single second of your life. If this explainer helped clear up cell transport for you today, please make sure to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and definitely subscribe to Kognito Key for more insights. But before we go, consider this. If active transport requires so much of our daily energy simply to disrupt equilibrium, what exactly happens to our bodies the exact moment those cellular batteries run out? Keep learning, stay curious, and I will see you in the next explainer.